Hey everyone, this is Robert, and thank you for tuning into the podcast. Hope everybody's staying safe out there and I hope they're having a delightful holiday. Today we're going to be chatting with somebody who has been in the industry for a while. You might have heard them on like Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, and done all of this other stuff for TV, film. The list kind of goes on. So I have my special guest right here with me. Joining me today, we have Miss Veronica. Alicino? Am
Very
I
good.
saying it right? Yes. Okay,
Uh,
yeah, but thank you for joining me.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here in my own home, right? Um,
Yeah,
well, you pronounced it properly. Most people would say like the name Al Pacino would be Alicino, but for some
right,
reason it's soft. So if I ever married Al Pacino, I'd be Alicino Pacino. I don't know.
right. So yeah, would you like to give a brief little bio about yourself and
Okay,
just
I'll
share
go
about yourself and all that good
and
jazz?
questions, whatever you want. Yeah, I have been in the business a long, long time. I grew up in Brooklyn. I lived in New York City, Manhattan, most of it. I think the very first movie I ever did was called Frankenhooker. And after that, I went to school. I went to Fordham University in Lincoln Center to study theater. And then I did a lot of theater. And then from there, I moved into mostly films, but we also had a live comedy group, which I was just talking with a whole bunch of people from Chucklehead. We went around performing, and I picked up a couple of really good plays, serious plays, like Danny and the Deep Blue Sea, I did in Manhattan for 6 months. Uh, but I always enjoyed more than anything doing voiceover. And one day I finally moved to Los Angeles when I was about 25. I was just sitting in a cafe talking on a telephone or something. And a lady said to me, "Do you want to do voiceover?" And I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "Well, you have a very distinctive voice," which I didn't know if that was a compliment or not. But she asked me, would I like to be in a Muppet movie? So my first movie after New York was, I think, Muppets in Space or Muppets Take Manhattan. I did two Muppet movies. But yeah, that's how I started. And then, like you said in the intro, I did a lot of shows on Nickelodeon, played a lot of voices. Um, and you don't have to memorize it. So that's the good news. You can read it. And it's just a fabulous way to make a living. You sweat, you go crazy, you jump around. You can't just sit there and be mellow. You have to really put all your heart and soul into it. It's like an exercise. You jump around, you change your voice, you yell, you scream, you take it down a notch, you go slower, you go faster, you go softer. And often you take direction from somebody in the booth. Nowadays, they come to you. Nickelodeon came to me on this last show I did called Middlemost Post, where I played Dolores Moody, the meanest woman in town. And I had a lot of stuff set up in my garage in the back, but they came from Nickelodeon, the company, and fixed me up with a super instant way to do it and how to record and then put a zoom on it. And they would direct me from where they were, in the valley. And it was so much fun. It was really fun.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So, I guess since you already gave like a brief introduction of how you got started in the business, was this always something that you wanted to do since you were like when you were a kid, or did you have like other like aspirations
Well,
that
I
you
was
were kind of looking
a dancer. Thanks for asking. My passion is dancing, but I don't think I was the right type or size. Nowadays, you can be any size or shape and dance, but I really love dancing. Not the greatest singer in the world, so it's sort of sad, because like in Manhattan, for example, you have to be the triple threat. You have to sing, you have to dance, and you have to act. Well, I got the acting, I got the dancing. Singing is fine. I never liked my voice, and I still think it's a wacky, weird voice, but that's, I guess, what makes it, you know there's so many different types. For example, Nancy Cartwright, Simpson, the voice of Simpsons, Bart Simpson, was in my acting class. Gee, I don't like a really weird voice like that. And I thought that's the best thing, just to have a weird voice. Oh, and I was taught something very early on. I went to a class in New York called Weist Baron for commercials. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. I don't know if it's still there, but I had a female teacher, and she said, "You know what? I'm gonna stop." She became my agent. She said, "I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop putting you up for what she called beauty spots. You know, beauty spots. I guess you probably know, but if anyone doesn't know, it's like I'm using Jergens lotion, and I feel so sexy about it." Um, and she said, those are fine. I'm not saying you're an unattractive girl or anything. I'm just saying you're funny. So let's just do comedy spots for you from now on, just comedy. And it worked like a charm. I found my niche. I always loved Lucille Ball. I've always loved Carol Burnett. I always loved, B. Arthur even. I thought I sounded like B. Arthur from the Golden Girls. And I thought this voice will never fly. And I've done a lot of boys parts. I play boys and I play men. So I like that. I mean, I think it's really, really fun. What do you think?
I honestly think that is, as I'm just listening to all this information, I'm like, huh, yeah, it's actually really cool that you've mentioned that Nancy Cartwright actually took your class, and, back then it was like, there's a lot of, wonderful voiceover, like, people, like actors that got their start taking courses. Like, I know that Nancy took classes with the great Dawes Butler, who you know as the guy who did a lot of the Hanna-Barbera characters and whatnot. And I think I
No,
remember Nancy saying, like, I think somebody told her, like, you're not gonna book anything with that, like, I mean, it's funny that you mentioned like weird voices because like Nancy, I think she was told that like that boy voice that you have right there is not going to get you anywhere. And
yeah,
then look, yeah, showed them wrong. So it's
yeah,
just really fascinating how, history just, I mean, like, I always say that it's, um, the biggest opportunities just happen in the most unlikely of circumstances that I've come to realize. I know they say luck, luck and preparation equals success, but I just feel like they just really come from like out of the blue. Like you don't really expect it to like nobody could expect The Simpsons to really take off like the way it did as I'm just watching the earlier episodes. And then when you look to right now, they're on their 30 over plus seasons. I don't know, but like they've been running for like over close to 4 decades at this point, which is kind of crazy to think about. So yeah,
crazy.
anything can happen in this business. Yeah.
Yeah, you're driving around. She has a pink car. It's the Bartmobile, and I think she bought a house and everything else with just. And I remember seeing that show the first time and saying, "Oh, I don't know about this." And when I was handed a script, my first script for voiceover with my weird voice, um, for SpongeBob. At SpongeBob, I read the first one and I was like, I don't understand. What is this about? You know, why is there a pineapple under, why does he live in a pineapple under the sea? And then, I got to do a lot of SpongeBob voices, small parts, but a lot of them. And I did 2 movies from SpongeBob. So I'm like, I get it now. I really get it now. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Right.
or if you're a SpongeBob fan or not, but
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah, I actually grew up with the show. I haven't really been watching it for like these last few years, but yeah, it was kind of one of those shows that it's like it kind of shaped practically was my childhood.
I know, isn't it great? So many people tell me that. And I just want to say the last movie that they just did called
Sponge on the Run?
Sponge on the Run. Thank you. I was in it, I don't remember. I
Yeah,
got to
I actually remembered the name this time. Wow.
good. You're really good. Well,
Yeah.
there's live action part of it in there, and there's a lot of live action. Snoop Dogg is in it, and
Anya
Danny
Reeves.
and Keanu. I was just gonna
Keanu,
get to
yeah.
had a little bit of a banter between us, actually recorded, and it was
Nice.
to meet him, and he's such a nice guy. And it was really, really, really a fun experience. I mean, movies can be a great experience or they can be very tense, especially in the last 2 years. I only haven't done very much. I danced in a few things, but the last thing I did a television show, it was just like at the very beginning of pandemic. The numbers were going crazy in Los Angeles and everyone was uptight and it just didn't feel like fun at all. That was probably the only, pretty bad experience I had. But SpongeBob was a gift. It was a blessing. I'm glad you watched it when you were a little youngster.
Yeah, I think a lot of us did. I mean, I was a Nickelodeon. I was watching Nickelodeon more, and I also loved Cartoon Network and Disney and pretty much a lot of the stuff that a lot of kids, a lot of people my generation came from, late 90s, 2000, like the 90s, 2000s type of early 2000s, um, that era
Oh, I
when it
see.
comes to the generation. So yeah, I mean, we pretty much all watched the show in some way or another.
Yeah, my nieces and nephews still watch it, and I
Yeah.
still get stuff around Christmas time, like Christmas SpongeBob,
Oh yeah,
Christmas.
the Christmas stuff. Yeah.
I send them to my nieces and nephews, and they're thrilled. They love it. They love it, and some of them are really young. So it's still
Yeah.
playing all the time. So I thank you so much for watching it. If it wasn't for you and your crowd and your friends, I wouldn't have had a job.
Yeah. Um, I remember for one Christmas special, I think they did it in the style of like those really old Rankin Bass cartoons, like that
Mhm.
stop motion animation. Yeah, I think I remember seeing something like that a while ago. It was pretty good.
Yeah,
Um,
one called
so
Water, right? Then there was
what?
Sponge. First one
Sponge
was
Out of
I
Water, yeah. Yeah, it
Sponge.
was the first movie was when they meet David Hasselhoff, and then the second was The Water Out of Water, I think, and the third was On the Run.
Yeah, it was. It was all good, and it was originally going to be called "It's a Wonderful Sponge."
I remember reading something like that, yeah.
Yeah, they changed the name because people that watching it now are too young to remember "It's a Wonderful Life."
I mean,
So
it's still a good movie. I mean, but
yeah,
I can see why because it was like back in the 30s or 40s. That was like my grandparents' like generation, so I can sorta understand. I can kind of see why they had to change it. But anyways, my next question is yeah, speaking of the pandemic, would you say that your workload, because I usually ask this to the guests who have been doing a lot of remote recording now because there's been a lot of stuff that has been going on in the industry, like so many changes, people are adapting to the changes. So for you in particular, have you felt that your workload, like your life has kind of started getting, it's sort of getting steadier, busier, or has it kind of like, I don't want to say slower, but would you say that it's on like a standstill or however I want to say it? So do you feel it's gotten faster, slower, either
I would
or, middle of the
definitely
road?
slow these last 2 years. Things are just starting to pop back up again. But voiceover has been a blessing because first of all, I learned how to work the equipment. So that's good. I mean, I'm just used to walking in, standing in front of the microphone and saying, okay, I'm here, and don't do anything. So having to learn what to do and how to set it up is important, right? And so I think that doing that is a blessing because the other part, what you were talking about, I don't want to be bitter or anything, but for me, constantly to have to self tape at home, um, I just feel like a professional can do it better. I miss the days of casting and casting directors. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah. We have to go walk into a studio and yeah, have to go in person to auditions and whatnot. Yeah.
Just came back for me though. I went on one the other two on two in one day, and they were the best auditions. I'm better in the room, you know. I'm better in the room. I'm not really a filmmaker, so I'm not good at with camera angles, as you might be able to see. and stuff like that. So I prefer to have a professional shoot it and me just act. That's all I have to do is act. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I know that a lot that this pandemic had caused a lot of like it has impacted pretty much society in a I know a lot of people focus on the negative stuff, but that's not me. I'm not um, that type of person. So instead, I just want to ask you, how has it impacted you in a positive way? Like your career, your lifestyle, just anything that you want to talk about? What are some of the stuff that you want to like say were some of your biggest like some of the stuff that you were really the most proud of that you were felt like you've really accomplished during these past like couple of years or so, or just even this year, since we're kind
Oh,
of nearing the end of 2022. So
well,
yeah,
it's a great
positive
question.
changes. Yeah,
Yeah,
why?
there are changes, like staying home and studying a lot, like studying a play, breaking it down in your own mind, just umpteen millions of scripts. I can show you a pile. I have it right over there of scripts that I received. So it's this big, and I've booked about 5 jobs. But this is a learning, a learning practice. So I had to read all those. I had to sit there and figure it out. And I felt a little bit dumb during pandemic. So I'd have to say, like, here's what I think, instead of like working on the spot like you usually do, because I do a lot of improv. It's just kind of like, I got to figure out my plan first. I got to figure out what I'm doing here. I've got to focus, focus, focus. So there's a little less focus, I think, when you're just home in your house all the time. You're not driving to this place or that place. But I will say I was very, very lucky, and I've always been lucky. And you talked about luck, the moment we sat down. But the best thing that really ever happened to me, I had a lot of great teachers. One was at the Beverly Hills Playhouse, Milton Katselis. And he kind of said, everybody wants people on set that they want to be around all day because it's a long, long process. And you don't want people that you don't want to be around, people that are phony or people that are pushy. Um, so when I first started, the very first, I got here like in 93 or something like that. And the very first job I went up for was a Lethal Weapon movie, Lethal Weapon 3. And I went and I met the director and he said, well, here's the jokes that are written in the script. You're supposed to be like the funny cop. You've only got a couple of lines, but you're joking around with Mel Gibson. So I told the jokes and he said, oh, that's not a funny joke. Do you have a funnier joke? So I said, yeah. So I just jumped in there and I got so lucky. I was supposed to work one day and it seemed like Mel Gibson and Danny Glover both liked me. And they said, oh, she's funny. She's a cop. She hangs around with us. She's like one of the boys. And I got to work like 5 days. That was a miracle. So I always say the same thing to everybody. It's hard work in the beginning. It's studying a lot, but showing up on time, of course, and being the kind of person that they kind of want to hang around with on set. You know what I mean? They don't dislike you. I mean, it's pretty obvious. But then there's the luck factor too. I always lucked out. And I guess the last thing I'll say is sort of true, this thing that says it's not what you know, it's who you know. You agree with that a little bit?
Yeah. I could definitely get behind that because I've literally got jobs, not to toot my own horn or anything, but I've literally got jobs where I've worked with somebody and then they sent in a nice word for me. And it was like by word of mouth, referrals are, you have no idea how helpful, like they can be really, really, you know, because if people put in a good word for you, like you said, being easy to work with and just being nice and just being a great person to hang out with, you just like that is gonna leave like a good first like impression. People are gonna be like, oh hey, they're cool. Let's just bring Veronica in for this extra part on this production that we have for this big movie that we're doing. So you just never know.
Never do know. So it always pays to be nice. It's a great job. There's no reason to complain on set. There's no reason to be, bitchy or mean. Whenever I get a chance to work, I'm like, woohoo! I'm like I'm like SpongeBob. I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm
I'm
ready.
ready. Yeah.
You're better than me. And it's very fun. And I do have to admit something to you, and I'm not sure if you know this or not. Are you ready for the big secret?
Yes.
You are. My husband is the co-creator of SpongeBob. He worked with Steve Hillenburg for a long time in the
Mm.
beginning. But I don't know if you knew that.
Mm. And your husband is, I know there's like different co-creators, but is
Tim Hill,
it Tim
the
Hill?
original.
Oh, okay, Tim Hill. Yeah. Yeah, I definitely know him.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I literally I'm a Wikipedia dude, and I'm like co-creators, and I think in one of the first episodes, I would see his name being credited. I think it was the pilot, and his name was credited as one of the co-writers.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, that is wow. I actually never knew this until now. I knew who Tim Hill was, but yeah, this
This
is
is
news to me.
crazy.
Yeah.
Small world. I met Tim Hill when I
Yeah.
auditioned. He wrote a play in New York. I lived in New York. He lived in New York. I auditioned for him. I got the part. He fell in love with me. I fell in love with him. We moved out here together in Los Angeles, and he had me read the first script of SpongeBob, and I didn't understand it at all. I'm like, wait, I don't understand this. Wait a minute, what? Why is she a robot? I mean, I don't get any of it, but I'm super glad I stuck with it because now I get it. It's been a long time. My husband wrote the first movie of SpongeBob, and
Yeah.
he wrote and directed this last one, and he was a little bit a co-writer on. I think it's a um the second one. That was Paul Tibbett. I think Paul Tibbett.
Yeah.
You guys, that
My
name?
God. Yeah.
Yeah. So he brought me in. I did a little part for Paul Tibbett at Paramount, and I was really grateful for that. Yeah. So yeah, and my husband Tim, he's done a ton of family movies. You've probably seen some of them, I guess. Garfield, Alvin and the Chipmunks. What
Oh,
else?
wow. Oh,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Yeah. He just did The War with Grandpa with Robert De Niro, Christopher Walken,
No.
and he does animation as well. So he does it. Oh, Max Keeble's Big Move. That was a you must have
My
your
God. Disney Channel. Yeah. They
I'm the
used to,
one
it aired
who
on Disney Channel like, oh, they used to air it like
owned it.
pretty
Yeah.
frequently. Yeah.
I'm the one in the food fight. I'm the one who gets the chocolate pudding thrown at her face, that really long food fight. Food
Oh,
fight.
no. No
Yeah.
way.
Director, and he threw it right at my face. And then he threw cream corn at me. And they said, don't take it off your face for continuity. So I had to sit there all day long with chocolate and corn all over my face. Mrs. I forget my character, Mrs. Talia, or yeah, I think it's Mrs. Talia, a teacher. I was the teacher. Remember when they flush him down the toilet, Max Keeble, his head, and he comes into class, and I'm the teacher that goes, "You're dripping, and you're late," and I start yelling at him. Yeah, that's me.
Oh, man. That just brought back so many memories. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, Max
Um,
Keeble, great. We filmed right around our neighborhood in Los Angeles, so it was really nice, really great
yeah.
experience.
Yeah, and going back to the It's Who You Know, I mean, really doesn't get any better than like being married to one of the co-creators of SpongeBob. And yeah, I I mean like yeah, there are cases where like if you're really, really lucky, that person might help develop one of the most prolific animated TV shows that is like not just in animation but in TV or just in history. So it's like yeah, it's definitely like you talk about is who you know. There you go. There's there's your little fun fact or whatever segment that I do on the podcast. There it is.
Okay.
So I'm sorry.
I remember looking at backstage in the old days, and it had jobs, for actors. And I saw this play that Tim Hill wrote, and I was like, I didn't know Tim Hill, but I wanted to audition for the play, and I was like, I don't know if I'm right. And then I showed up, and then we met, and I was like, I had to get rid of my other boyfriend, but it all worked out.
Right. Yeah. So with everything that you've done in your career, I usually ask, I know you've kind of named a couple of the projects that you've done, but any other ones that you hold particular fond memories of, the people that you've worked alongside with, just
Okay,
favorite
I'll give
people,
you. I
great.
wrote some Jeffrey Tambor. I worked with, loved him, and he
My
was in my.
God. Yeah.
I was on the Tony Danza show. He was in my acting class. I worked with Jason Lee on Alvin. I worked with the other guy, so funny too. Jason Lee and I forget his name right now. Um, Giovanni Ribisi was somebody in my class I worked with at the Beverly Hills Playhouse. Ann Archer, Mel Gibson, Joe Montana. Oh, here's one of my favorites. James Marsden. Did you see Hop by any chance? It's an Easter movie.
I might have. I think I recognize him more in because I know that they recently just came out, like the Sonic movies. I think yeah, I know that was him, like in the newest Sonic films that just came out. Um,
Oh yeah.
these, like right when the pandemic started, believe it or not. I
Yeah.
remember when the first movie came out, right when it started. Oh,
Hey,
good
check.
times. That was the last movie that I watched in theaters. That's a fun fact.
Watch a Dead to Me if you get a chance on TV. He's in
Okay.
that. He's really good with Christina Applegate, and he's such a good guy, such a nice guy. Um,
Yeah.
really, really, really love working on Hop. Hop is hybrid. Tim does a lot of hybrid movies. So there's the character of the bunny, who's voiced by Russell Brand, um, is a cartoon character, but James Marsden and Kaylee Cuoco and all the family, they're live. So you're often talking to, you're a live character actor, a real actor, I mean, a real character, but a real person, only you're talking to puppets, like in the Muppet movies, or you're talking to animated things. In fact, a quick story about the first Muppet movie I did. Uh, they have their arms up like this, doing the puppets, like
Right.
way over. And I'm looking at the guy, the creator, like this famous man, and I'm talking to him, and he's going like this. No, no, eyeline. You're supposed to look at the puppet moving the mouth, not the actor. You know what I mean? It's just a funny thing. So they have that, and then it's very interesting to do a hybrid where you're talking to, for example, Alvin and the Chipmunks, but they're not really there. They're just little dolls, and then they put the animation in later. Well, I'm sure you know that, right?
Uh, I think I've seen some. In my spare time, I kind of watch behind the scenes in the making of film and TV, and because that's actually what and I was just sharing this with my family. Like, I actually want to go to school to study like more about film and TV, behind the scenes, and learn more about the industry, and who knows, maybe book a TV show at some point.
Where would you like to go? Do you have a school in particular in mind, or
There's a couple I had in mind. I know there's like film schools that are local here in LA that I was looking into. Not I can't really name one in specific, but I've been doing like a lot of like class, school,
Mhm.
college hunting. That's pretty much what I'm doing right now. Going to
It's
college. So yeah.
the more you will learn, and the more people you'll
Yeah,
you'll they meet. That's what we were talking about before. It's who you know. It's who turned out
exactly.
classes and got to see you work. Never have known you before, but since they got to see you work, they go, okay, yeah, I'm gonna recommend you, like Tony Danza for my show. And I was like, oh my God.
Jeffrey. What a dream
It,
boat. He's a
it can
hunk, but he,
it can happen. Any miracle can happen. It takes luck, it takes skill, but right place, right time,
yeah,
right? Who you
yep.
know.
So I quickly wanted to ask you about like SAG-AFTRA and joining the union. I just wanted to just quickly go over like how is it like actually getting to be in like being a unionized actor, and also what are some of the steps and I guess prerequisites or etiquettes of like for the people that have been working in the industry who are interested in joining SAG and whatnot, because there's been a lot of talks about like in that particular field in the industry. So pros and cons and just your experiences of
For me, the
working
best
in projects.
ever did join SAG. I was still living in Brooklyn at the time. And, this last terrible picture that I did, we like playing a hooker or something. I mean, it wasn't a dirty movie, but it just wasn't a good part. Uh, and then I was there all day long. And I think I got something like $70 or something for like a 10-hour day. And I'm just like, oh, I said, I wonder what it's like to join the union. And I mean, I don't come from a show business family. I didn't know anything. And then they told me how much it cost. And I was like, look, look, what?
Oh
That's
boy.
a lot of money
Oy
for a
vey.
young boy, Schmidt, right? I'm like, I'm a
Yes.
wait girl. I mean, I'm a bus girl. I mean, I only just get tips, but I saved it up. It took me about 6 months. I think some boyfriend or somebody helped me with a little bit with. But when I got my SAG card, I was dancing up and down the street. I never thought it could happen. I thought there was going to be some sort of a test, or you had to be the best and the best. You had to audition to be in SAG. I thought all these crazy notions, right? And then it turned out, no, you just have to pay. They don't care as long as you pay. So that changed everything for me, because if I hadn't been in the union, I would never have gotten Lethal Weapon 3. And if I didn't get Lethal Weapon 3, I wouldn't have moved to LA and I wouldn't have met all those people. And I remember I met a manager or a producer called Stu Smiley, who lived in New York, and he came to see me do stand up. I used to do stand up. And he said, girl, you got to get out of New York. I said, why? I love New York. I'm a New Yorker. I'm a native New Yorker. Can't you tell? And he said, yeah, but there's only theater there. And if you say you can't really sing very well, then you're stuck. I mean, you have to be triple threat, you know? He said, go to California. He said, you'll make it like that. I guarantee you, go to California. Someone will say, oh, she's funny. She's from New York. We'll find something for her to do, even if it's like a walk through or whatever. And he was right. I mean, it happened instantly. I don't know why. I think because the show The Nanny was on then, and everybody liked her voice, The Nanny.
Dracia.
Yeah. Oh, she's
Hey
our
Tina.
yeah, she's like, oh, Mr. Sheffield. But she's our SAG president now, Fran Drescher. So I
There you
would definitely
go.
definitely recommend it. I'm not saying that people who aren't in the union aren't having a good time too, because they are. I know a couple of girls who work all the time as extras and they love it. It's no pressure and it's a
Yeah.
long day, but it's not a lot to do and they're very happy with it. And they don't have the money to join SAG. But if
Right.
you can do. I mean, I think maybe when you start going up to your film classes, sometimes they help you out. Like if they believe in you, I think I've heard this, that they'll say, "Oh, he's very talented. He deserves to be in the union, or he belongs in a union. So we'll give him like a 10%." Or I don't know if I'm making that up. Have you ever heard that that's true? That someone will benefit you or donate to your SAG?
10% scales, sort of. I've just been watching like a lot of interviews with Bob Bergen or Steve Bloom or just, voice actors that actually work in the union. I watched a presentation not too a while ago, and I was just learning like, oh wow, yeah, there's a lot more that goes inside here than, you know, because I thought it's like, okay, so when you join the union, you can't work on non-union projects anymore. I'm aware of that. And also, I think you do get like, you get better insurance, health care, and all this other stuff. If you want to learn more about SAG, you could just go on the website, There's a ton of useful resources that you could look into. And yeah, since we are running out of time here, any last piece of advice, any thing that you want to plug, share, social media, your final um, words before we conclude this lovely interview for today?
Well, if anybody's interested, they can go to my YouTube channel. It's Veronica Alicino. I have a lot of my videos and old stuff, which is kind of fun on there. And occasionally put a lot of stuff on Instagram. I'm not big with TikTok yet, but I'm going to try. Are you a TikToker?
I just started like last year, so I'm fairly new. I'm new to it. Social media, I'm all right.
Yeah, I'm not too bad at social media. I enjoy it. But
Hanging with the cool kids.
yeah, man. But yeah, no, I wish I could say I had one thing coming up, but the last thing I did was The Irishman, which was really fun. Did you watch The Irishman? It was on Netflix.
I've heard of it. I've That is on my to watch list.
Okay, I have a nice teeny little scene. Yeah, I mean you could barely see me, but with Joe
Mhm.
Pesci.
Ah, one of the greats. Love him.
I, he's fantastic in that movie.
Yeah.
And we're the same height. So works out real well. So I hope you watch The Irishman or whatever, SpongeBob or whatever, anybody wants. Oh, I was in a movie called Maid of Honor. Do you remember Maid of Honor with Patrick Dempsey?
Sort of.
Sort of, yeah. It's a romantic comedy. But
Yeah.
my sister was getting her nails done the other day and she called me. She said, they're playing it at my nail salon. That's the new thing now. They play movies. She said, I saw your name. That's the best part of show business when your family watches it. And I come from a big, big family, a big Italian family. And they're like, they tell me, Lethal Weapon's on. Oh my God. They're watching out for my movies all the time. Garfield's on. Oh my God. And since Tim has done so many Christmas movies, it's a good time for us right now. They'll be playing them on HBO a lot. So
Yeah, right on. And yeah, thank you so much for joining me today. This was a lot of fun. Huge, huge pleasure. Yeah,
I
like I
thank
said, it's an honor.
thank you so much. I really enjoyed doing it. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah, likewise. And if you wanted to see this on my socials, it'll be up on SoundCloud, most of the podcast platforms. It'll also be up on YouTube. If not later this evening, then definitely by tomorrow. So stay tuned. Be on the lookout for that. And until then, guys, happy holidays, happy New Year, and yeah,
Will it be on LinkedIn?
I'm on LinkedIn and yeah, all that good jazz. So
Okay.
until then,
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I had fun. Thanks.
you're
Bye.
welcome. And until
Bye.
then, see you later. Bye bye.
Yeah. Bye.